Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's an honor to stand here today. I acknowledge we're on the traditional territory of the Algonquin peoples and speak to them and say miigwech. I am very honored to be part of an emergency debate tonight on the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report. I appreciate the Speaker accepting the arguments that were made by the Honourable Member for Beaches East York and for the NDP caucus. I want to begin by quoting some words, Mr. Speaker. Quote, "Humanity is conducting an unintended, uncontrolled, globally pervasive experiment whose ultimate consequences could be second only to global nuclear war." Close quote. Those words, Mr. Speaker, were the opening sentence of the consensus scientific report from the Toronto Conference in June 1988, when this government, this country, was in the lead on climate change, working with the World Meteorological Organization, the United Nations Environment Program. The warnings from science were clear then. They remain crystal clear now. That was in 1988. I've had a ringside seat, Mr. Speaker, to decades within which we could have arrested climate change before our glaciers were melting, before we were losing the Arctic, before our forests were on fire, before we saw drought and climate refugees and tornadoes in Ottawa. We had a chance in the 1990s and we blew it. We had a chance in the first decade of this century, and every time there's been a warning from scientists, the alarm bell rings and society hits the snooze button. I'm increasingly drawn to the conclusion that our biggest problem is the short-term mindset that preoccupies political parties, not just in Canada, but around the world. Where's the bravery? Where's the courage? There are all those people surrounding every politician saying, well, you can't win an election telling the public the truth. You can't tell people that they're going to have to stop using an internal combustion engine, leave fossil fuels on the ground. You want to tell them that? Well, that's not going to be politically popular. But if we're grown-ups in this place, if we face the science clear-eyed with a serious intent that says, all right, this is one report where we can't afford to hit the snooze button, because this time the scientists are telling us 1.5 degrees is far more dangerous than we thought it was. Reminds me of what Al Gore once said, that if we let the climate crisis continue apace, it would feel like a nature walk through the book of Revelation. Well, we've allowed greenhouse gas emissions in the atmosphere to increase to such an extent that we have already changed the chemistry of the atmosphere. We can't change it back. We are leaving that hospitable period within which human civilization took root. We got up and started walking on two legs and then became the dominant force on the planet. And in a geologically and planetary lifespan, in a blink of an eye, humanity is the dominant force on this planet. We are entering the Anthropocene, where what we do has a bigger effect than anything else on life on Earth. And in the Anthropocene, now we are being told, you, Homo sapiens, the clever species, the smart ones, you have at most 10 to 12 years maybe to ensure that you stop greenhouse gas emissions rapidly, you ramp up what we can do with sequestration through protecting every forest and replanting as many as possible, and we're going to have to do some things besides that too. If we want to ensure we hold global average temperature increase to no more than 1.5 degrees Celsius above what it was before the Industrial Revolution. And parts of this report could have been much worse. We know from those who were in the IPCC negotiation, and bear in mind, this is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Yes, it's composed of scientists, but they're appointed by government, and this is a negotiated document. And pressure from the United States and Saudi Arabia took out the parts of the report that would have warned us, oh yes, if you miss 1.5, it's bad. That's in the report. If you hit 2, it's much more dangerous. They took out the part about runaway global warming. We don't know when we'll hit a tipping point in which it becomes irreversible self-acceleration, where the ultimate consequences are not brace yourself for bad weather, but brace yourself for millions of species going extinct. And even if humanity can hang on, can we imagine hanging on to human civilization in a 4-degree, 5-degree, 6-degree, 7-degree world? The answer is no. So we have one chance only, within which all the nations on Earth agree that we meant what we said in Paris. We must hold global average temperature increase to no more than 1.5 degrees. And in this, the IPCC special report contains good news, because it says you can do it. It says there are no physical, geological, geochemical, there are no conditions of planetary existence, technical or economic, that will prevent us from achieving the goal of protecting our children's future. Not future generations in the hypothetical, the children here, now, the grandchildren I tuck into bed at night, those children, not hypothetical children. All of us know those children. They are our children. We have one chance to ensure that in their natural lifespans, they enjoy a hospitable biosphere that has sustained humanity since we first got up and walked on two legs. So the issue is not to debate tonight Canada's current carbon plan, Canada's current climate plan. This is not a status quo debate. And we shouldn't be scoring political points because one party did this and another party did that. We should be here as humanity, human beings, elected people for our constituencies who know full well that if we don't change what we're doing as a species, we will face an unthinkable world. And the good news is we still have a chance to save ourselves. I increasingly, Mr. Speaker, am drawn to thinking about the 5 days in May 1940 when Winston Churchill was surrounded by people, the Lord Halifaxes and Chamberlains, who said, well, face facts. We can't defend this island. The Nazis are invading. Our entire army is now stranded at Dunkirk, 300,000 men, and you can't get them off. There's no way. So face facts and surrender. This is the moment when real political leadership steps up. This is where we need our Prime Minister to go to, or to dispatch the Minister of Environment to the negotiations in Poland saying, we're stepping up. We're going to rescue everybody. We're going to be the heroes in our own story. We're going to adopt what the IPCC says we must do, and 45% reductions by 2030. Churchill, of course, surrounded by naysayers, thought up a miracle, one that's clearly undoable. How many civilian boats are there in Dover? Oh, we could get those civilians to cross the English Channel and rescue over 300,000 men. Really? It's hardly plausible. But in this time and in this age, we need to face facts just as squarely, and we need to say to Canadians, we've got hope. Do not despair. Do not think it's too late. Don't turn away from the IPCC reports. Don't be afraid because we can't breathe in British Columbia in the summer from forest fires. Don't give up. We rally, we marshal, every small town, every big city, every Canadian group, Rotary clubs, church groups, and we tell those naysayers who think that climate change is about a cash grab that they are in the way of our future and they must get out of the way. But we also sadly must say to our own Minister of Environment, it's not true that we can't change our target for 5 years. The Paris Agreement says clearly any country can replace its own target any time. And the IPCC report has said to us as a country that our target is approximately 50% too little. We need to do twice as much. I know that's hard, but to save the lives of our children, what wouldn't we do? Why won't we rally round the call that we go to COP24 and say, we're not going to wait 5 years. It's an unthinkable thing what the minister said to us. She said we're going to wait till 2023. Read between the lines. That's what she just said. We must go to the next climate negotiation as leaders in the world with the target the scientists have told us we must have, and then we must stand up and challenge the others. Where's your target? Where's your goal? Because we are not prepared to tell our children we are a failed species. We are not going to do that because we are responsible human beings. We are Canadian parliamentarians, and we can, together, achieve the pathway that's been put before us by the world's scientists. Time is not on our side. History may not be on our side. But by God, we better be on our own side. We better grab this chance and make it real. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.